Hello, beautiful people. I want to believe that you are better than yesterday. So today we will be having our very first episode of the Missing Link podcast, and my name is Daisy Soita. Today we are here at the International Center for Reproductive Health, where we will be having our very first guest, our very own Quinta Wambolo, as we open up a brave and safe space where we can be able to have candid conversations concerning gender-based violence. Quinta will be taking us through her journey of how she got victimized and how she moved bit by bit from being suicidal, having mental health issues, and becoming a survivor. So be sure to stay tuned and listen to the story. This podcast is brought about due to a partnership between the International Center for Reproductive Health, ICRH for short, and the Technical University of Mombasa. So in today's episode, we are going to have our very first Survivor Series podcast. And with us today is our very own Quinta. How are you, my dear?
Hello, Daisy. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, any day, anytime. You're always welcome. Feel at home.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
So before we start, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Quinta?
Okay, so Quinta is a survivor of cyber gender-based violence, but also a thriver. I've so far written 2 books. My first book is Self-Care Keys to Mental Wellness.
Wow.
And the second book is The Ultimate Mental Health Planner. I'm also a psychologist by profession, and I run my own NGO called G4G Africa in short. That's Girls for Girls Africa Mental Health Foundation. And what we do is we offer psychotherapy programs to survivors and caregivers of gender-based violence. I also speak a lot, and currently I'm on my 134 space. I host my show on Twitter every Wednesdays.
Okay, so this is so interesting because I'm looking at you and I'm seeing a young woman, and when you start introducing yourself, getting a lot. It's like you have done a lot. And I mean, I feel like it is so empowering. I feel like you're just empowering me as a younger person to step up on my game and kind of aim a notch higher.
Thank you.
But onto the business of the day, Quinta.
All right.
What is your understanding of gender-based violence?
Gender-based violence is where it can affect both genders, both men and female. And most of the time you look at power imbalances, gender inequality, and just sort of stereotypes that are still existing in our communities. And there's so many types of gender-based violence. We have the physical violence that we are so used to seeing or hearing, which we know as domestic violence. We also have the intimate partner violence. We also have emotional abuse, which is actually gender-based violence, and we also have psychological abuse, which can fall under gender-based violence. But there's this one that not so many people talk about it, and that is the online violence that I'm very much passionate about because I have gone through it.
You feel like it has not been touched on.
Yeah.
So you've actually mentioned something very important. You've said you have gone through violence. Is it possible for us to actually get a little bit of the story over there?
Sure. I think one of the ways for us to advocate against gender-based violence is to give voices to survivors, and that's exactly what you're doing on this podcast, and I'm really honored to be here.
Yes.
In 2018, my ex-boyfriend released my nudes to the public, and this is because I think after dating for more like 7 years and after the breakup, I fell into depression, and that really took a toll on my mental health. And through all that, I started speaking about my healing journey. Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember when we even fell in love in 2011, 2012. It's sort of, I was very young. I was in Form 2 at the time.
How old were you at the time?
21.
Wait, you were 21 in Form 2? No, when you fell in love, how old were you?
No, when the nudes were released to the public, I was 21. When I fell in love, I think I was 15, 16.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
so this is a high school affair.
This is a high school Form 2, you know.
How old was he?
25.
Well, this keeps getting interesting.
25, 26. Yeah, he was actually old because he had done his bachelor's. He had actually graduated, so he was pretty much mature enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was my first love. literally. And coming from a very humble background in the village, we came from the same village. And I think being my first love and having come from a very strict background, I sort of wanted that exposure from him, which my parents couldn't give. You know? And my parents didn't like the idea of me being in a relationship in high school. But I think when you're going through adolescence, these are challenges that a lot of us girls will definitely
that kind of makes me want to ask something. Is it that your parents didn't like you being in a relationship in high school with this guy, or is it that they just didn't like the idea of you being in a relationship in high school at all?
Yeah, they just didn't like me being in a relationship with any man in high school because my dad is a teacher, so he definitely knows what it is like when young girls fall in love and what it can do to the education. So
but you still fell in love?
I did. I mean, matters of the heart. So that was me in 2012. I think 2011, 2012. Life was great. He was a great man. I think I was younger, so definitely everything was great at that
Precisely.
time. I finished my Form 4. My dream was to pursue law. I wanted to be a lawyer, but I think I didn't like the universities that I was called to do law initially.
I know, it can be disappointing.
So I went in and chose Mombasa because I didn't want to go to Kisii University. I remember I was called for Kisii University to do law, but I was like, nah, I can't go to Kisii, let me go to Mombasa or Nairobi. So that made me to change my course to BCom. So my first degree, I did Bachelor of Commerce Maritime.
Okay.
So that was in 2014 when I completed my Form 4, and then I came over to Mombasa in 2015 to join my campus. And all this time I was already in love with this man. So this
You're
was
already
the same
dating.
Man. I was already
So
dating.
you've got a few years into the relationship.
Yeah. So when I came to Mombasa already, this someone we had built a future with when I was in high school. So it was so easy for us to transition the same relationship, or rather the same model in this relationship now at the university and away from parents. In 2017, when I was my third year, going to 2018, because he lived in Nairobi and I lived in Mombasa, I could occasionally visit him. And every time I could visit him, it was always planned. Like he knew Quinta was coming over and he would pay for my logistics and I'd go to Nairobi. But this one moment, I went to Nairobi unannounced.
Impromptu visits.
And I think I had just, it's just a feeling that I had within me.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is my home. I don't have to be telling him every time I'm going. I mean, I can just show up. I'm
the woman in you.
I'm just having a year and we are settling down. So why not, impromptu? So I went to Nairobi unannounced. And the moment I got to Nairobi, I think it was a Saturday morning. It was actually a Sunday morning because I traveled on Saturday overnight. So I got to Nairobi on Sunday.
On Sunday morning.
So I was going to check up on him as I go to the village. So I was really carrying a lot of luggage with me.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So when I got to Nairobi, I was like, I don't have to surprise him. Let me just call him to tell him I'm around because I have a lot of luggage. I need him to help me with it. Yeah.
But wait.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry to cut you short, but first of all, I'd like to understand something because you're saying you were going to check up on him and then you head to the village.
Yeah.
So in as much as your dad was against you having this relationship in high school, were they aware of it at this point?
They did, and I think they had to accept slowly.
Okay.
Because we had been warned again a number of times, but we were still together. And to a point where I'm now in campus, I think my parents also became reluctant, like she's old enough to choose what's good for her, so they were okay with it, and we became like role models, like couple role models among
couple
the young
goals.
people.
I know.
And it was brilliant. It was really beautiful, and I enjoyed every bit of it. So when I got to Nairobi, I called him because I was like, I don't have to surprise him anymore. Just let him know I'm around and let him help me with the luggage. So I called him. He didn't pick up. And I think that's where my overthinking and anxiety is just
kicked in.
So I went all the way to where he was living. I got to the apartment because the watchman knows me because every time I was in Nairobi and he allowed me in the house. I tried calling him because I had a lot of luggages. And he still didn't pick up the phone. So for me, at that moment already I was anxious
and overthinking,
and
you're having all ideas in your head.
Why is he not picking? All that. So I go to our house. I call it our house.
Yes,
because it used to be. And then I knock on the door, and he comes, and he's wrapped in a towel. and he's shocked, like, oh, you're here. And I'm like, yeah, because I have a lot of luggage.
Yeah.
I left the luggage for him to help me get them inside, and I just walked straight into the house. And I think him was not comfortable when I was getting into the house, but he couldn't tell me not, you know. So when I got to the house, I went straight to the bedroom, because I think I was looking for something, and I really found it. You know, I went to the bedroom and I found a lady lying in bed.
Oh my God.
And you know, it was early in the morning, and I think already I was anxious, I was angry, I was trembling. So I'm hitting the lady, I'm screaming, the lady's also screaming because it's early in the morning. I've literally woken her up.
You hitting the lady?
Already.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was chaos. So guys are coming, like neighbors are coming, what's not happening, because he's trying to hold me and I'm not letting him do that.
Yeah.
So neighbors are coming in and they're like, what's not happening and all that. And the guy just says I'm an ex and I'm bringing all the chaos. And I think that is where everything crumbled.
The fact that he referred to you as an ex-girlfriend.
Everything just crumbled there and then. So the lady left. She's a neighbor actually. She was just living in the next apartment. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, she left her phone and they went through it and they're neighbors. And then he was sorry, saying he had to say that so that he's not moved, like just out of the apartment and all that. But now it was already broken, and he tried to say we could talk it out, he could explain. Yeah, I was also considering, because he's paying my bills in Mombasa, he's literally taking care of me. But
so wait, so at this point, you've broken, you probably cried your eyes out, and now you're just there silent, and he's trying to apologize and make up all these excuses for calling you his ex-girlfriend. I mean, what's going through your head? Are you thinking, do I forgive him? Do I move forward?
Of course, I'm confused, because this is the same man that I'm very dependent on. This is the same man that literally takes care of me. And I have no life beyond him, literally. So I'm confused. Should I just forgive him and let go? But my heart is broken to a point that even if I forgive him, I'm still torn. And that's where I think my battle started, because at that very moment, I had chills all over my body.
Yes.
And it's like I froze, Of course, I stayed for the night, and he tried to be sorry, because I wasn't close with my family. The moment I was in a relationship with this man, he sort of
crumbled.
Created, you know, he just created, it's us and not them. So I wasn't even close with my family, I wasn't close with my relatives, with my cousin. It was just us. So even leaving that house, I didn't have a place to go. Because I'm just used to, when I go to Nairobi, it's my house, you know, it's my baby, and all. That's the world I knew. So at this moment, I couldn't leave.
Yes.
I was there in the house. I stayed for the night, and then I went home the following day. But I went to the village actually.
Yes.
I spoke to my mom about it, and my mom would be like, this is the same man you disrespected us.
And went after.
Yeah, so all the decisions you have to make is solely upon you. I shaved, I remember. I shaved. If you ask me why I shaved, I don't know why. But I shaved immediately. I was in the village, and I came back, because I had just gone home briefly, and then I came back to school. And when I came back to school, I think my depression had already kicked in. But the friends around me didn't know how to help me.
So how did you know you were depressed?
So when I came back, I started smoking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think my coping mechanism was now through drugs. I started smoking. I wasn't smoking initially, but all of a sudden when I came back to Coast, I think I started finding solace in drugs. So I started smoking, and I started withdrawing. I used to be very extroverted. Like a lot of people knew Quinta as an extroverted girl. I used to model.
Oh, wow,
and
nice.
I was all over doing all these shows, shoots, runways, and then all of a sudden,
you're not there. Yeah.
And I avoided people. So I slowly lost friends. I slowly lost a life that I used to have. And this man said, or rather, he told me, I still want you and I still support you. But because you don't want me, I'm going to support you just a little bit until you're good enough to support yourself. So we had technically broken up, but he was still footing my bills.
Interesting.
So when I came back to Coast, that was the life. I was going to class. I'm drunk. I've smoked. I only show up to class because I have to show up.
Yes.
I lost friends because I can no longer keep up with their lifestyle, because the friends around me, we used to be really extroverted. Today's a Friday, we already had plans for the whole weekend, and all of a sudden I don't want to go out. So I lost all that,
Did you ever consider getting back with him just so that you can get your life back onto the same track?
Not at that moment, because I was really, I think I was getting to a point of I need to find myself, and that was the drive behind me wanting to find exactly Quinta out of this man, finding Quinta away from this man, because I think being in love from such a younger age, my identity was also built on him. So I didn't know Quinta away from this man, or rather I didn't know Quinta away from love, away from that relationship.
So how did you bring Quinta back? How did we get Quinta back? A very important question, and perhaps the only question you should be asking. If you're wondering what I'm wondering, then I bet we are on the same boat. Now join us for part 2 as we discover how did Quinta move from being a victim of gender-based violence to being an all-time published author to being a founder of a non-profit organization, G4G. How did she survive? Who helped her? So be sure to join us for our second episode as we discover this.